It is time to experience a different radio station in digital broadcasting WKIT. Pyramid One World Radio Network with broadcaster Bob Charles. Our programming is based on truth, faith, and love. We have studios in Florida, Texas, and Australia. So let's begin into subjects that change our perceptions about the world around you and I.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pyramid One World Radio with your host, Bob Charles, and his honored guest, Dan Pelly. Dan Pelly's mission is to instill hope in others' hearts and inspire them to want to live. Dialogue is crucial about suicide ideation and depression. We must narrow the disconnect from being aware of the illness to prevention, treatment, and recovery. The actions we can take to choose life, being determined to recover from this disease and live a wonderful life. For others, beavering the loss of someone to suicide. It's nobody's fault but depression and mental illness. Dan Pelly's experiences in survival, one can gain more insight into the isolating pain, shame, and guilt that suicide ideation causes. The alone feeling one suffers, and the secretive thoughts of wanting to kill oneself. Understanding the pain of a loved one, friend, or colleague who is struggling in the pain they are dealing with and how to help. Pain and the loss of hope is the primary reason one wants to end one's life. If you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please reach out for help. Speak to a loved one, contact a suicide prevention hotline, or seek guidance from a mental health professional. Your life has value. Some people want to support you through this difficult time. Recovery and healing are possible. We can all help prevent suicide. Dialing the 988 Lifeline provides 24/7, free, and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you or your loved ones. Suicide is an unbiased robber of life. Dan Pelly's goal is to reduce the suicide rate by 30%. Let's win together. Please share. BA. Suicide Warrior Dan is here now to speak to callers. Just dial 609-6630153. Let's welcome Dan Pelly, the Suicide Warrior.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Dan Pelly.
How are you, Bob?
Yay. We are well.
Spend some time.
Like always. Hey, listen, you know what? I tell you something. There was something else that I forgot. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we were off off recording, and I was talking to them, and I forgot. There was a bunch of people that I was playing that promo to about you know what you had written and what I had added to it, and these were like, their mouths were open. They said, "Oh my God!" And I said, "You have no idea that these kind of programs are even around." Well, what are they out to lunch between two ears? Come on, it's too easy. There's too much stuff, right? Let's face it, we're feeding them dinner, and they're having dessert.
It's not. Suicide's not the most entertaining subject, so a lot of people shy away from it. They're not interested until it hits home.
You know, the more and more you talk to people, everybody knows somebody that either did it or got close.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Really, I didn't until, ladies and gentlemen, I've had Dan on the show and that before. And I mean, he's been with me ever since. And that in my mind, I've been reading everything that he's putting out. He's putting out all kinds of stuff. The man is a giant at what he does.
Thank you, Bob.
But, I tell you something. People don't realize unless you shove it right in their face. They're know somebody, if you hear about somebody, if you anything, call this number. Somebody somewhere, it's like calling 911. They can find
Mm,
you. I mean, if somebody calls somebody and they know their number, and that person is going
exactly.
to jump off a bridge somewhere,
Exactly.
everybody has a cell
Yes.
phone.
Oh, yeah.
We can find you.
Unfortunately, sometimes we're not there on time for people. Just locally, the Springfield, Massachusetts area, two people have killed themselves jumping off the Memorial Bridge. I'm going to be talking to the mayor about, I don't know if you heard about it, but they're called the net on the San Francisco Bridge. I listened in on Kevin Hines. He has jumped from the bridge 20 years ago and survived. He's only like 4 or 5 survivors, but he's only the two that's walking. He's been out inspirational speaking, and he's been collaborating with NAMI, the National Association for Suicide Prevention of Mental Illness. And they finally got this net done after years where someone jumps, they fall into the net. You can't even see it. It's all under the San Francisco Bridge. So inspiring to see that it got done. And I just heard about this Memorial Bridge situation. It's very local to me. Um, Young black woman, she was just sick, obviously, and depressed, videotaped herself laughing hysterically because you're in a psychotic state when you want to kill yourself, laughing hysterically before she jumped, and she died. 3 days later, a young man, a lot of copycat can happen after suicide. Well, if they did it, I can go do it and end this suffering. It's a permanent solution to temporary problems. And I found that out the hard way with my 2 attempts, which unfortunately I had in 1996 and 2010. 96, business loss, divorce, won't get into all that, but a lot of suffering, suicide ideation. You get into this psychotic state, you can't get out of it. It's a vicious cycle. Stepdaughter almost got killed in an accident in 2007, suffers with a TBI today. Yeah, traumatic brain injury. It really nosedive into depression again, survived medication. And I got myself better. I've been off meds since 2011. I didn't go public until 2016. I had to overcome the shame, the guilt. It was really heavy. And I started practicing Buddhism at the time. It really helped me get the courage and the determination to make my first video. It's a little choppy, my first video, compared to how I am now, but that's how we learn as we keep going. But the young man, 4 days later, they couldn't find him. The mother was looking for him. They found him upriver from the same bridge.
Oh,
These situations are very hurtful to me because we can't save everybody, obviously. So I get a lot of pain when I hear someone that's killed himself. Like if I don't even know them, celebrity, whoever they are, I know that moment they were in, of that suffering that they were feeling, and how dark it was for them. It's just a horrid place to be. And my heart gets pain. I get pain from when I read stuff like this. And I want to keep advocating and helping. Obviously, we're not going to be able to save everybody with these instantaneously decisions people make. And I crossed that bridge many times, and how I wish I could have saw her and talked to her that, hey, I've tried twice, don't do this. But I couldn't. And you just feel like hopeless at one point. And then I said, well, you have to start again, Dan. You get that hopeless feeling, but you got to get up tomorrow and you got to help that next person because someone's listening and someone's suffering. I post late at night. I talk to strangers on the street. I'm really behind the scenes. I don't boast. I'm behind the scenes. I show people I'm out there. But at the same time, it's that one person my mentor taught me that just passed at 95 years old. They thought he was going to die from tuberculosis, and that's at the Saco Ikeda. Blazed the trail for the SGI, went from 3 million to 12 million people, about 12 million people chanting in 192 countries, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Very powerful Buddhist chant. He just passed in November 15th of 23. Very painful to lose him, but I know he's going to carry on and come back even bigger than he even was as a young man, blazing a trail through Japan and all the countries. And I wanted to mention him because he had a quote about determination that a senior member sent me when I was really suffering in 2010, 9 and 10, when I just started practicing in the back of the room with my head down. And this determination quote that the Soccer Arcata Road changed my whole life. And it's not just about thinking positive. It's about resilience in adversity and not giving up again. And I made a vow when I saw that I would never try to take my life again by my own hand. And this is where I am today.
It's that. I mean, what you just said blows me away. But I on a lot of my shows, and then I talk about love all the time. Love is the bridge between here and the other side.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't believe in it, 1 billion% in that, you gotta be an alien or something.
Well,
It's crazy.
evilness gets in the way, evil can, and, really twist people the wrong way. And it's unfortunate. I chant for even the evil people that I don't like, and anybody I don't like, I chant for them to be better human beings.
Yeah.
Just like people would pray in church, and as a practicing Catholic, when my whole life, and just praying and chanting and praying, it's just a sense of praying in the same sense, and trying to move that energy for people to feel that, we got to show up for people. This young generation, no, I don't have time, I don't have time. And to show up. And I taught my kids to show up, although they don't follow that advice sometimes, but they understand that showing up's important. And I think it's important for people to show up for other people. If you see someone that's acting, odd, and they're not in their right mind, and geez, this person's not acting right. My coworker, very silent. And all of a sudden, it's a silence going on, and I've approached people. Are you okay? Everything all right? I've even asked, a lot of people directly. Are you thinking about taking your life?
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
You gotta have the dialogue.
The thing that I was going to say was that there is that number, that 988 number.
Yes.
It's the beginning. Like they always say, if you're going to go down the yellow brick road,
Yep.
you start somewhere.
Oh yeah.
That's the first place you start. You talk to those people.
You gotta talk to people that understand.
Right. You let them understand that what you're going through and everything, and they
They'll
will.
direct you.
Right. They will come
And
up
they
with a
will direct
solution.
you.
They will come up
Yep.
with a solution. And
Right.
if you're even a bent mind sight
Yep.
in that, still, it's a beginning. It's the start that will actually, I would say, without you even knowing it or a person knowing it or even wanting to be there, they'll become a better person right there from that call.
Oh yeah.
They'll
Well,
change them.
that number there. I mean, the problem what you have with 911 is the police are not trained to handle people that are suicidal, and a lot of them do get trained now, but there's a lot of suicide by cop, and people like threatening the cop because they want to die. So
Right.
things like that are going on all the time. But the 911 scares people because they don't want to be arrested. Some people don't want to be incarcerated, not incarcerated, but admitted to a fifth floor hospital. Like in Massachusetts, if you say to somebody, I'm going to go kill myself, they will put you in 3 days. If you say it outright, they will put you in for 3 days in a mental, well, I hate to say mental because it's such a word I'm trying to get away from, because it's a stigma and it's really brain health. And I wish I talked to medical society people about this. Like, you got to get away from this word mental because it just makes people sound like they're crazy. So, and there's other inspirational speakers out there doing the same. Let's call it brain health, okay? We get sick from a lot of illnesses, and depression's no different. But that's what happens, and there's certain laws that, you'll have to go into the hospital for your brain health for 3 days to get you stable. And hopefully you get stable and you realize that you were going down the wrong road. So I think the 988 number that President Trump signed into law was huge. And, the Attorney General back in 2000, when he deemed it an epidemic and it was now part of the 15th leading causes of death, it sits about 8 or 9. It fluctuates all the time. I mean, it used to be 30,000 a year. Now it's 50,000 a year just in America alone. And there's over 1.5 million people killing themselves in this world. There's people dying every 22 seconds. Our veterans, 22 veterans a day are killing themselves. I mean, this stuff is going on while we're out having a good time. Not to say we got to be morbid and say, hey, I got to go suffer all day long. This is happening, but we got to recognize our fellow veterans that have fought for this country's freedom, that people can go out and do what they're doing and speak out. And all the stuff that's going on, we have to be aware. We have to show some compassion.
You
We
ever
have to
notice?
show some love.
You ever notice how the media don't pick that up?
They do and they don't. When it's sensational, like someone has a dramatic suicide, they
Right.
pick it up. But I'm talking about the guy that dies alone, or the woman dies alone, or the young child that dies alone in the dark.
Hmm.
Because when I was in the dark, ain't nobody looking for me
Hmm.
outside of family wondering where I was. No one's talking to me. So sensationalism is big for the media. So if you're jumping from a bridge and survive, or you do this, hey, they want to talk to you. But if you're sitting in a hotel swallowing pills, they're not that interested. So my mission's not as much as the act itself, because some do about their suicide and how they survived, and now they're advocating and all that. I really like not to talk about the actual attempts, because of course you don't want to trigger anybody, right? People get very triggered when they're on edge. When you talk about suicide, just like that young man followed that young girl over that bridge 3 days later, this is the stuff that happens when you got to be careful on the opening up on certain things, because I'm very cautious when I'm on my videos. I don't get into all the details about the pills, and everything I did was very. I mean, I shouldn't even be here. I'm just lucky. I'm a lucky guy. I'm blessed, whatever. But I shouldn't be here. And I said, I got to do something with this. I got to do something with the tragedy. And I got to turn this poison into medicine for myself and for others.
Judd, I have to do this though, just so that the people that who are listening, and that you can dive. People that are listening right now. I want to know what's going on in your mind. I want to
Mm.
know what you think. We're sitting here. We're talking about something, and I'm sure that if you're listening, you have a question like, "What if?" And that "what if" or quantum thought is something that we want to hear. So you dial this number, 609-663-0153. That's 609-663-0153. Now, if you're chicken and you don't want to dial in, you say, "Oh,
Mm.
well, I want to talk on the phone."
Yeah,
Okay.
people get nervous.
This is how you do it. And we don't even know who you are until you tell us who you are.
Mm.
Text us. You
Mm.
all carry phones in your back pockets, up your butts, or whatever. Who knows? Dial this in, 863-222-4199. That's
Repeat that.
863-222-4199. Text to that number. I'm looking at it. It's right here on my phone somewhere. There it is. But these things are here for you, not for us. I love reading anyway, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, we want to know what you're thinking. That's what the show is all about. We're going to tell you what to do, how to do it, and who to do it for. I have a guy at one time in South Carolina, right down the block from us. See the guy every day. The guy always looks like somebody ran over him with a truck, and the truck backed up to see who he hit and ran over him again. That's what the guy looked like. So
Wow.
one day I went up to the guy with my dog, and I said to him, I says, "Hey, what's the matter? Can't you smile? Your face is gonna break. What?" So the guy turns around to me. He says, "No," he says, I haven't been feeling right, blah blah." And he goes on and on and on and on and on about things that are wrong with him. I said, "Well, good. Saturday we're doing the barbecue," and we were.
Mm.
It was like a half one of these half block barbecuing things. I,
Right.
I want to see your butt at that place having a burger, or I'm coming to you because I said I know where you live. I said, "I'm coming to your house." I said, "I'm going to
Love
drag
it.
you out. Me and the dog are going to come and bring you down to the barbecue." And he was there. And he
Love
was
it.
smiling. I went up right up to him. I said, "See, a smile." Ah.
And
It
sometimes,
got
I'll force, not force a smile, but I'll just smile at somebody. I'll be at the counter, whatever it is, and break that smile can make their whole day.
Bingo. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then again, in the times that we're in right now, nobody's smiling anyway. You know what I mean?
Some people are in a miserable state and they don't want to be, but and then some people are just angry and mad and they got the evilness in them and the ill intent. I call it ill intent. I can always sense when someone's having ill intent going on and who's got good intent. And I really choose wisely who I interview with and what I do, because I don't want anybody with any ill intent going on, like anybody mockery or things that can happen with certain people, because they're miserable. They want you to join the crowd.
Hmm.
And I never was like that. When I was miserable, I went off on my own. I stayed quiet, which is unusual for me to be that quiet and not talk. And it's just a place where, I want to bring people into good intent, have good intent, because it's good karma for you to have good intent. But there's some evil people that might not straighten out in this world. They're going to go into other world suffering, and they're going to have to straighten it out eventually, or they're going to stay suffering. So it's really up to the individual. I just posted one of my clips from the coverage videos. You see the coverage behind me, and I put up the theme that I'm doing all the time. My next one's going to be about determination, the quote that saved my life, and it carried me into all this. But I got a clip, and I said, nobody's going to do this for you. I realized, although I was staying with my brother in Florida, and he's a rock, man. He was, I mean, if you want to get better and go to work every day with a guy in a detail shop, and then you go with my brother, he's a rock. I mean, it's a guy who will stand by you, quiet but a rock. And if I didn't have him, I don't know what would have happened. But I still knew it wasn't up to him. Well, yeah, how much he put me to work in the day, and I suffered at night for 8 months, 9 months, a year. It didn't matter back in '96. But I realized as I'm around the family and I'm sickly and they know I'm sickly and I'm quiet, and I said, they're not going to do this for me. I have to, they love me, they care about me, but they're not going to get me better. The only one that's going to get Dan better is Dan. And when we stop playing the victim, we're never going to have victory. And I played the victim at first. Poor me. I lost it all. Yeah, everybody's got tragedies. People have lost children. It's horrible. But the thing is, you got to be able to say to yourself, when do I go to a recovery program like I did for 6 months on my own? I couldn't walk up 5 stairs, never mind 5 flights. By the time I was done with that recovery program, I was walking those 5 flights, and people were a lot worse off than me. But I made a lot of connections, and I realized there's so much suffering going on that needs people like you and I.
It's more. You were talking about the smile on that before. Do you know that moral? That's the thing that breaks the ice all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. All the time. You can get groups together. I mean, I did something at work, and that today it was really funny. I mean, these are. I mean, let's face it. We're all farts compared to these kids. They're like 20 to 20 years
They
old.
know it all.
23. They have no idea. They think they're so smart.
But well, they
Yeah.
learn.
Talk to me in 50 years.
Well, you know
They,
what I told my kids, when they're being negative or what's going on and they're not showing up or whatever, I said, let me tell you something. And my father told me this when I was a young man. When life kicks you around, because it's going to kick you around pretty good, you really become a wiser person. Because life will kick us all around. We're only here for a short time. We're like little specks of sand, and we're all going to go. And hopefully we come back, back in the sand again, and we're back in the mix. But at the same time, when he told me that, I was like, yeah, yeah, I got it going on. I'm in my 20s. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Little did I know how right he was. And life kicked me around pretty good. Some of my own mistakes, my own problems, and some of it just comes to you. We have no control, just like we have no say when we're going to go.
Mhm.
So I just realized that. I'm just like, and I keep repeating it to people, kids that are being wise or a smart ass, whatever. I'm like, look, you'll straighten out when life kicks you around real good, because it's a guarantee that life kicks you around,
Mhm.
because everybody gets kicked around. We're nothing special. It's everybody.
It's funny that you talked about the kids that were being their own their own boss. It's like, hey man, like you got to listen to me. You know what I mean?
Oh
You
yeah,
know, one of those kind of like, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you know. Sure. But on the other hand of that, those are the people who one of these days will be the one that may jump off that bridge
oh yeah,
because everything that they've built up in their minds about what they want to be, they want to be the boss. I'm this and that and the other thing. Those are the kids that need people as much as it hurts people. I know it does to befriend them. I mean, it's crazy. It sounds crazy, and I mean, it would a person like that when I was a kid would turn me off. I'd be like, hey, you stay
yeah.
on your
You knew it all.
side. But you see, you got to sometimes you got to be the fireman in life. You have
Oh
to
yeah,
you have to run toward the fire.
yep.
Don't run away from the fire. And if you run toward the fire, you'll put that fire out.
I
Or,
agree. I mean, I was telling my brother too. We have conflicts within the family, like every family and all that. I says, how angry are we going to get? We only can get so angry because it really only hurts us when we get angry about certain things. I says, but he's older than me, and he's always been a leader to me. But when I said this to him, I just said, we got to lead. We have to show differently that we're going to let the anger go and love whoever we need to love in this life and bring them back into our circle. If they come into the circle again, they come into the circle again. They don't call my stepkids or this or that, or they're too busy to, chime in, and they like my projects and everything I do and all that. Well, aren't you proud of your stepdad? Aren't you proud of your father? Because I'm proud of you guys that I raised good kids that are now electricians or going to school in college, or, I'm proud of them. But it's reciprocal. We have to encourage each other, I tell them. It's just not all about you and your little world. It's about the world in general. I mean, not that we're going to go out and, put out everybody's fire, but we can put out fires in our immediate environment, because it starts in our environment, with our own self, to be happy alone, if we're alone, and be happy, because that resonates out to those smiles, to those other people. When you're happy, you're bringing that out into the world, and good energy, good intent, all of it.
it's funny. Life is funny though because like, right?
Get that right.
You see these people all the time, and that they're like at a store, for instance, today. And I'm at the store, and I got some things, and the guy says to me, he says, "Well, can I help you out to the car?" Now, as you can see, there's no gray up here or anything else. And I'm like well put together. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, none, at least a little bit on the side. But all these people, they look at you like, okay, like you're the senior, so they got to be, real nice or something. I said, oh yeah, yeah, you can help me. I said, you do me a favor. My front tire needs changing. I was like,
Exactly.
I was driving this guy nuts.
That's
So,
funny.
so the guy turns around to me and he says, really, I had my shirt on too, and it has my name on the shirt. And so he goes, Bob, he says, really, he says, you're funny. He says, every time you come in here, he says, we all laugh. I says, why? I said, you don't like my pants? What's the matter? What's the matter? It's sometimes you got to be a little, there's got to be a little clown in everybody. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that little bitty piece that just brings people up. Because
Well, we
now,
only can be we only can be serious so much. I mean, we're all serious. We got to be serious, and life's tough. Hey, it's a battle. When you get up every day. I mean, and but you want to battle for the win. You want to battle for the happiness. The battle has a payoff.
oh
Might
yeah,
take time. It might take time. Like it took me some time to go public. I mean, almost 6 years. I was struggling with shame. Shame is huge for people that try to hurt themselves, and they really isolate over it because of it. And that's why, we're on here talking about suicide prevention and what it takes. Like, people want to ask the question, like, what did you do, Dan? What did you do to get out of this?
mm,
Besides getting on some meds and staying, meds are not the all in all. Meds might keep you safe, and that's all well and good. And it did keep me safe from wanting to go jump off a bridge. But the thing with medication is, and some people still need to be on it with bipolar, or certain things. They have to be at a certain level, and I understand that. For me, I was fortunate to go med free after a lot of 3 or 4 meds for 2, 3 years, and it numbs you. You know, you can't feel those feelings. You know, you can't feel everything you need to feel in life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you don't want the ugly to bring you down that suicide ideation road again. And this is why, you know, I just got this shirt about suicide victims, and, you know, like we're talking about some fun stuff, but at the same time, the seriousness that all these suicide victims, and, you know, I have the writing down on the shirt I like to read in a second. But, you know, when it comes to the victims, people say, well, they're better off. Maybe they wanted to die and all that. I said, I don't agree. No matter how bad I wanted to die in that hotel room, I didn't want to die. That little bit was still there that I didn't want to kill myself. And that's what you got to grab onto. Like President Cater said, that little bit of hope. Once that hope dwindles out, that's the problem. And you become psychotic. Like Deepak Chopra talks about suicide a lot of times, and he says it's a psychotic state. You're not in your right mind to take your life. So when I hear people like she's, you know, hysterically laughing, videoing herself, so tragically jumping off the bridge, and she's suffering so bad, they didn't want to die. All these victims, they wanted to live a life like me, you, and everybody else, and live to an older age and be a Clint Eastwood till 94. You know, you know, all that they want to do. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read the shirt.
Oh, yes, you can.
Okay, so the shirt says, I gotta put my glasses on for this because I'm not seeing as good, but they're big letters still. Anyway, it says, as you can see the top, it says suicide victims are not weak, selfish, or cowards. They are fathers, mothers, and sons, daughters, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, cousins, grandchildren who are in pain and are missed and loved every day. Choose your words carefully, and please don't judge what you cannot possibly understand. Time to change, raise awareness, not stigma.
That's one of the reasons why I tell people all the time to talk to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
You know, talk. You know, so I had somebody tell me one time, talk was cheap, and I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, but I
Depends.
so so's dying." You know, it's like, you know, it's like, okay, you can feel like anything you want to, but let's face it. I mean, there's too many things in this lifetime that
Yep.
people don't realize is there when they're in that state of mind, because they cancel the world. It's just them. It's all them, and they
Well,
talk themselves.
he's struggling.
They talk themselves into jumping off a bridge. They talk
That's
them.
just, that's the suicide ideation. It can happen spontaneously, or it can happen over months.
Mhm.
And it's a hard place to be. I could tell you, when I was depressed in '96, I just thought, hey, you know, pull myself up by the bootstrap, be tough. You know, you grew up Italian, tough guy. You know, and it has nothing to do with toughness.
Nope.
You know, I would challenge anybody if they call me a coward, because that's the last thing I was thinking about when I wanted to end my life. It wasn't about cowardness, you know. And I always say this too in one of my statements too, that um, suicide is not a, you know, like a, how did I put it? Suicide is not a, it's not a cowardly act. It's a suffering act.
That's
Suicide's a suffering act. And people want to get out of the suffering, because suffering can be like an 800-pound gorilla on your back. And as I get down to Florida and I gave up a house, and I lost my house, I lost my wife, I closed my real estate business, I packed my car. The only thing I took with me were my clothes. I recommend never doing 3 huge things at once. It was a big mistake to do that.
oh yeah.
Although I was going to a good support system, you know, with my brother, and I knew he would support me and he would stand by me as long as I needed him. I knew that doing all that was not a good idea. But when you're suffering, and I called him from my business after I lost my wife, you know, after I lost my business, and I started getting depressed. I'm sitting in my office, and I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't be sharp. I couldn't close people on a sale. I couldn't even dialogue with people anymore. And I said to my brother, I can't even run this business anymore. I am so out of it. He goes, well, you're going to have to close it and you come down with me. And it was the best. That was probably the best thing I did. You know, I mean, obviously losing somebody, you can't control divorce, and, you know, and you're in love and you're heartbroken and you're losing your house and you're losing everything. Yeah, people, a lot of people, they say, well, a lot of people lose a lot of things there, but they don't think about killing themselves. But my brother says, and he said, I don't think I'd ever go down that road. People are built differently, but that doesn't mean I'm a coward or he's stronger than me. Some people just don't go there. I'm talking about the people that are going there and how they're getting stuck as they start getting depressed. Months started going by and I got worse and worse. I got isolation. I wasn't seeing therapists. I wasn't on any meds then. Very limited in 96 for therapy. And I knew I had to go get help, but I waited like 6 months every day. And now I'm starting to think about doing something. And this recycled in my brain over and over for months. Pills, booze in the trunk, leaving it there, and driving cars around for my brother going, where am I going to do this? This went on for months. I was struggling back and forth with living and dying and living and dying for months. Doc, like you said, people withdraw from the world. That's all I wanted to know is don't let me talk to people. I'll go clean cars in the garage. I'll go from my real estate suit to cleaning cars in the garage. I don't want to talk to nobody. And that's the way it stayed for months. And I finally realized I got to go get some help. It was a little bit too late. I got help late in September of 96. By the end of November, I made the decision to do the first attempt. And what hotel, I won't name the hotel, but, you know, small little seedy hotel. I've seen a lot of them on the road. And I just went in, sat there for hours, contemplating, writing notes. Some people don't write notes. And then ingesting and everything I did, it just got worse and worse. And I ended up going to an IC. I survived. Got me to the IC unit. Had so much chemical in me. The doctor's like, you know, we're trying to save people here, Dan. You're trying to kill yourself. But we're going to do our best to save your life. I can tell you right now, from the Tylenol and everything you've taken, you're probably going to die. Now a bulb went off in my head going, I don't want to die. It all switched. It
Yeah.
all switched. Looking at him, he's looking, well, you did what you did, and we're going to do the best to help you. He was kind of pissed off when he was talking to me.
Oh
And
yeah.
this, you know, this was more serious than my second one, although pills were involved. I didn't ever want to do anything tragic for my family to see me gun and jumping. And I would never want to see my family see me that way. Not dead either. But I was in the IC unit for 30 days. I mean, I was just there. The first 3 days, they didn't think I was going to make it. I was going to have kidney failure, liver failure. I had multiple doctors. I had a Vietnam doctor was my main doctor, Dr. McCarthy, always overlooking what was going on with me. With the first 48 hours, he says, are crucial because if this changes and your levels stay up, you're going to die. Your kidney's going to fail, your liver's going to fail, and that's it. So the kidney doctor come in, a Dr. Mehta guy. He was from India, very nice guy, doing the kidney, flushing the kidneys and doing the dialysis. And the first night, I got a signed stuff saying, you know, I might die from this, you know, dialysis. And I'm over there signing my life away, and I couldn't believe I wanted to live so bad. I'm like, geez, I keep signing shit saying it's going to kill me.
Right.
So
You're
the
right.
dialysis machine come outside the room, it would disappeared. I'm like, well, what the hell happened to the dialysis machine? Well, suicide victims is second in line. There's a guy that needs it that hasn't tried to commit suicide. So you got to wait. So they
Oh,
even put you in line because there wasn't enough machines. So
wow.
I got the dial. It was crazy. I seen the thing go away. I'm like, oh, well, that ain't gonna help me. So the dialysis machine. Then a guy come in. The liver doctor come in. He looked like Lurch from the Monsters. And he came in. He was like 6'8", tall guy. I looked up at him. I'm like, did anybody ever tell you look like the guy in the Monsters? You're huge, dude. He starts laughing. He goes, look, I looked at your levels, Dan. I'm gonna call Gainesville and see if I can get you a liver, Jacksonville or Gainesville, and see if I can get you a liver transplant because I don't think your liver's gonna make it from the extra strength Tylenol you took. And he comes back, you know, The next morning, well, that night, because the first 48 hours, he come back that night, actually, later in the day, comes up to me and he goes, you can't get a liver transplant. I'm like, why not? They don't give it to drug addicts or suicide attempt people. They give it to people that haven't done either of those. I'm like, really? So I just have to hope I don't die. He
Yeah.
said, well, that's about the bottom line. So I'm over there like real. I'm like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die now. I'm just like, I couldn't believe how bad I wanted to live. And this went on, and my levels kept going up. They're checking me every 4 hours, 5 hours, levels up, down, level up, down. They think that this guy ain't gonna make it. I'm hallucinating. It's just horrid. My Buddhist friend called me at one moment, and I was calmed down with the medication they were giving me. I want you to chant, Dan. This will protect you. You need to chant. This is before I even started practicing in 2010. She planted the seed in 1996.
Right.
And then she talked to me again in '08, going, you got to talk to a male leader. And there I was, starting to practice. And I've been practicing 16 years now. And I haven't looked back. And now I chant every day. I chant for you. I chant for all my friends. I have names in my Buddha bowl. I see a stranger on the street. I put his name in there. I ask him, a homeless, hey, what's your name? I give him some reading material. I put his name in my Buddha bowl. And I chant for the guy to get off the street. These are little things I do that I don't tell a lot of people about. But, my father was always good about helping the little guy. And he did big charitable things, but he always helped that one-on-one guy or that one-on-one woman. So he taught me well. He instilled it in me. But after that all happened in the IC unit, now they told me your levels are staying up, Dan. It doesn't look good. They're not coming down. You should call family. So you want me to call my mother? I said, what, are you crazy? He goes, I think you should call family, Dan. Now they want to all fly down, all that. I'm like, no, let's just see what happens. I know he says my levels are up. And my brother's like, I don't think you should call anybody right now. I said, well, maybe I should, because who knows, if I go, they're going to be mad at you. And of course, he was reeling. So the night went by, and then it happened the next morning. I don't know what happened. Between a priest came in to give me last rites, I was chanting Namyo Renge Kyo. I had both things going on to help me. And the night went on. I could have sworn during the late at night I was dying. I could have sworn I'm leaving this world. And come morning, I must have just been out of it. It was like 6:30, 7 a.m. All of a sudden, I look up and I see McCarthy, Dr. Mater, the Lurch guy, I forget his name, and the head nurse, four of them standing over my bed, looking at me with like amazement. I'm looking at him, I'm like, what? Like then, so McCarthy starts talking, he's helped a lot of Vietnam vets, and injuries when he was there and death and all that. He goes, look, Dan, we don't know why this occurred, but your levels have went normal. We don't know why. We're just totally stunned that your levels have leveled off to a point where they're level. And we just thought they would keep fluctuating, but we've never seen this. They leveled off. They might come back up again. We don't know if you're going to get out of here with any kidney problems or liver problems, but your levels are down. I'm like, wow, really? I'm like, wow. It was like I thought I was going to be dead.
Man.
Like, well, it looks like you're going to be alive. So I spent another 10 days in the IC. The nurses were in awe when I was walking around. They were like, this guy's unbelievable. And I vowed then out that window in Florida, that hospital, and they were great people. I hugged them all when I left. I said, never again. But you can never say never again with suicide and depression, because depression's a wretched animal. And it can attack you at any time. And this is why we got to reach out. And at the first time, I didn't reach out and tell my brother, hey, I want to go kill myself. I didn't do all that. I didn't reach out fast enough, quick enough. And I might not have been here because of it, and I should have reached out sooner. And I might have not got to the point that I got to. And I'm lucky I survived. And then I was on meds for a while. I got better. I come back to Boston. I met another girl. I stepkids I raised, and I started a whole nother life. This is
Yeah.
why you don't want to give up.
See,
14,
you started right.
14 years go by, but of course, I have a stepdaughter I raised since 7, almost gets killed as a passenger in '07. And the family's railing. I'm like really championing her along with the mother for 3 years to get her back on her feet. Once she was stable enough, and she suffers with short-term memory, and she's not going to have the life she was going to have, but she's a very wonderful person, inspires me, got a big smile on her face all the time. You talk about smiling, and I tell her, you're the ultimate warrior, I told her, the way you survived this accident. And she's always laughing, and, we always have great conversations, and she's 32 now. But, when I talk to her on the phone and see her, but now it becomes, and then when that happened, I started spiraling again after I got on her feet, and I started staying in bed. In 10, I wasn't doing anything with my program I said I was going to do. I wrote a 33-page suicide program in 2000. I was doing a psychology course for my associate's degree. I don't do it. And now I'm suffering. I tell my friend that told me to chant back then, I said, I'm losing it again. I'm getting depressed again. But this time, I knew to ask for help quicker.
Yeah.
And I got on meds quicker. I did a little bit more, but it still attacked me to the point where I made a second attempt. When everybody left the house, woke up in the hospital, they pumped my stomach. I was mortified. I never felt so much shame in my life.
The brain is a weird piece of our body.
It is. It can be so healthy, and it can be so diseased.
Right.
And I wasn't talking like this, so I was just mortified in this hospital. I stayed up in the fifth floor unit, and I just said, man, what are you doing, man? It's just like, and they said, well, obviously, I'm not that good at it, so I might as well stay here, because here I am, because I something's going on, why I'm still here. And my Buddhist people came up to visit me in the fifth floor, and they're like, keep chanting, Dan. You got a mission that you're going to do. I was told this by leaders. You got a mission. We don't know what it's all going to be. If it's going to be you're going to help people or what you're going to do. But there's a mission for you ahead of you if you don't give up. And I looked up at a sign of people that suffered with mental illness, they call it up in the sign. Churchill, Leo Tolstoy, which is a big writer. And I saw Churchill and all these people that suffered with manic depression. And I'm like, well, I'm in good company. Warrior Churchill, wasn't for Churchill, we might all of us might not be free.
Oh, well, yeah, you can also lose it too. So
right. So all of that, when I know I went on about this a little bit, but it brings me back when I talk about it that this is why we got to ask for help sooner. And after that, I really went for help after that. I'm like, no, I'm never again. I said never again 14 years ago. I got to make, and then I read that determination thing, and that was it. Not that I didn't suffer in darkness for a while. This went on for a while. I'm driving to meetings to go chant with my Buddhist friend, and I'm just like, okay, I'll get there. And the heaviness and the darkness, and trying to get upstairs at the recovery program, and all alone, and just suffering. And then things started changing after 6 months, and I started feeling that serenity again, and feeling that, okay, I want to get off some of these meds and just kind of wean off a little bit, start feeling my feelings more. All of a sudden, the serenity come back that it's better to be alive than be dead. And I just stayed with it, and and I got back on my feet. And as you know, because I opened another business with my ex-wife, my second, and she helped me, and we opened another business in 2000 with the stepkids and all that. So all of that was going on. I still have my business going on when this happened in 10, but I stayed on meds for almost a year and a half. And I said, by the end of 11, I'm going to chant to be off meds. So I was finally off meds in December of 11. And then they asked me to go to the FNCC in Western Florida. It's the SCA, the Florida Nature Culture Center, where they do Buddhist meetings, and people gather from all over the world. And they asked me to speak. They asked me to give my experience, what I did with the Buddhism that brought me healthy without meds, and got me talking like this again. So I went to that 3-day retreat, and I went there a second time, but I went there. And there was 150 men, because it was a men's meeting. It was not mixed with both, but it was a men's meeting. 150 men in the audience. I was scared, shit. I mean, I'm a pretty good public speaker. I helped manage my brother's band. I'm pretty good. I can get out there, right, when I'm in the right mind. Nervous as hell. One of the Buddhist members goes, get up there and be like Muhammad Ali, and knock them out there. I'm like, and they just, when he said Muhammad Ali, I'm thinking about champion and all that. I got up there, started talking about everything I'm talking about. And this is the dialogue we were talking about. They heard my whole story. I mean, it was in more detail and more depth about my daughter, things were happening. And I finished it after about 15 minutes of speaking about my experiences and where I am now. And this was like October of 2012.
Oh,
I had about 30 guys come up to me. One guy come up to me, he goes, my son, he shot himself in front of me. Things like this I was starting to hear. And they're telling me story, Dan, that was just wonderful. It's so brave to get up there. And it takes a lot of courage to, admit things. And they were just giving me this accolation. And I'm thinking about it though. But as they're telling me about their depression, their kids, their suicide people, and I just said, you know, and I knew about my program that I wrote and all that. And I talked about, I'm going to bring my program to the world. Little that I know, it wasn't going to happen right away, but it was it was significant turning point for me. And I kept struggling about seeing people on video. Do I do this? I have all this shame. Yeah, I could talk in front of all my Buddhist members, but I got all this shame and I don't want people to think less of me. And all this was going on. It took me 4 years of chanting and battling the demons to finally go public. And when I did in 16, I made my first video at 3 o'clock in the morning. I chanted right before and I said, now's the time, Dan, you've got to do this. And I just went for it. And now here I am ever since.
you know what you things that you're talking about. There's a show that I'm going to be starting probably around the middle of the end of July. It's called Now Talk. I've been thinking about making it Talk Now, but who knows? But the idea is for
I
people.
like talk now.
Yeah. All right.
I like talk now.
For people that call in to the show and tell the world what's on your mind. Do you know how many people that have something that's inside them that they never let out until somebody goes, "Hey, talk." I mean, it's like one of these things that where people will, off the record, sort of, come out and speak about things. There's people that don't like all kinds of stuff. Everything from pizza to hamburgers to
Whatever it is.
whatever it is. I mean, not so much. And there's also then you get the other side of where the people that like something will tell you about a place or about their relationship. I mean, let's face it, love, forget about it. That's capital letters right there, man. You can go, oh, baby. I mean, there's a million miles in that word. But
I find people to be nervous, like calling in, like we haven't anybody call in, but people get nervous. They get. It's hard for them to go public because they don't want to think, oh, if I call and someone hears my voice, they think I'm suicidal. They get nervous that they're going to be stigmatized. So the suicide thing's a very touchy. Like I said, it's not the most entertaining subject, right? And nothing entertaining about it. Of course, you can put something on TikTok, a video gets 1 million hits for someone, taking a crap. I mean, it's just ridiculous. How our minds can just be so enjoyable on something small, something stupid. And it's just like the seriousness stuff that goes on. But I know people trying to lighten their load and have fun. Hey, look, there's a lot of funny stuff out there too, don't get me wrong. But we must, really start concentrating in our individual circle and our individual environment for the people that are listening to know that someone's suffering in your family. Someone's staying quiet. Someone's isolating, especially the young people today. I get people always asking me to call these young people. Some of them are very aggressive towards me. Oh, you're an old fire. You don't know nothing. Screw you. And then, they don't know my story. They don't want to listen. I said, when you're ready to listen to me, give me a call. Because I'll tell you stories that will turn your head. And I'll tell you where I went and where I am and why I'm here now. Life's going to kick you around. Hopefully you don't take your life. Look, I've lost some close people. And I'm not going to be everybody's savior, of course. You can't be. But I've lost close people that have broken my heart that I thought, why am I doing this? And when I lost a close person, one of my mom's friends' granddaughter, only 21 years old, kind of come into the situation late. but she suffered since she was 10 years old, and some people just can't get out of it. End up going to her funeral and seeing her in the casket. And I was helping her for a couple of months, just trying to keep her there. And it just couldn't keep her there. I wasn't the all in all for her. But she loved talking to me. Dan's inspiring me. It kept her going at least for a few months. I was hoping that it keeps her going for a lot longer.
Mhm.
But it broke my heart so bad to see her and the young Air Force guy she married out of Texas. And I'm like, why the F am I even doing this? So I went to one of my leaders in my Buddhist practice. I'm like, I said to him, Steve, why do I even do this, man? It's like, I lose her. I've been trying to help her. And I can't, and he just looked at me very solemnly. He goes, look, Dan, you're not going to save everybody, but you got to keep going.
Mhm.
You got to pass President Cater's, mission. You got to keep the mission alive of helping people. That's what he did his whole life. And we got to help people overcome suffering. We got to help people become happy for the time that they have here. This is your mission as a Buddhist, Dan, on top of you doing it even before you became a Buddhist. So it really hit me when he said it. And it took me a few weeks to get out of it a little bit and just feeling dejected about it. But, this was a couple of years back. And I had these days. I hear about the girl hysterically laughing, jumping off that bridge I crossed many times.
Mm.
And it just brings you down a little bit. I don't go back into that hole of suicide ideation, but it brings me down. But I know this is the things you got to do, Dan, to get out. And just take it slow. You make another video in a couple of weeks. Don't worry about it.
You
And
know,
don't be sorry. Do it all in one moment.
not to interrupt, but
No, no, go ahead.
I agree with you with your leader. In your mind, you should go next. I'm serious. I mean that's the way it is. I talked
You
to a
have
doctor
to.
one time. I talked to a doctor one time. All right, and don't forget, I had an NDE. I died once.
I know you told me.
You
I
want to
know.
talk about suicide? I mean, I wasn't like my fault, but hey, listen,
Hey,
and
you were
threw me,
there.
hey, yeah, but they threw me back anyway. I was no good. But anyway, anyway, the thing
We're
that
ready for you.
well, I, tell you, I told them, I said, look, if you send me back, I said the one thing I don't want is kindergarten. But if the reincarnation thing.
Right?
No, but out of all the people that you were talking about and everything, or talking to,
Mm.
that they don't know like what they're going to do or anything else. That did you ever ask any of these people, what do you want? I mean, that's like you know how they have the joke about taking the broom, the handle of a broom, and stick it in the spokes of a bike while it's moving.
Oh, yeah.
That does, you know what that does to the bike? Stops it dead, dead. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
say that to someone, you know, that stops their brain. I mean, it puts the brakes on. All of a sudden, they're like, "Huh?" I'm
Well,
serious.
I've done that. I've done that. It's like, even when I was talking to whoever I'm talking to about the suicidal, and I would say, okay, you're thinking about killing yourself. And I ask them why. They tell me about all their sufferings. I said, but tell me a couple of things. I know it's tough right now, but what would you like to live for? And that kind of switched the whole conversation to,
Yeah.
now I might think about it. They might say something, well, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And I'm like, well, nothing comes easy in this world, and you're going to have to be patient, which I didn't have a lot of back then. And it probably caused me problems not having enough patience, but you live and learn as life kicks you around. But then that engages into, let's carry on. Let's not give up. You know what I mean? And like you said, next, let's go. We got to help the next person.
Yeah.
The next guy or the next girl I see on the corner of the street, they get a couple of bucks from me. I don't even care. You say, why do you give them money? They can go to work. Look at, you can tell when someone's on Skid Row. It's easy to see. And then you know. And ask them their name. Give them some reading material. Look, I'm going to chant for you. My name's Dan. I'm going to chant for you when I get home. They look at me like, I tell them I'm a Buddhist and all that. And they're like, wow, no one ever talks to me. They just give me a quarter or two or a buck, and that's it. Funny story. I'm in Vegas. No, I was in California. A nice restaurant, all the Hollywood actors years ago. I go up to the homeless guy's out there. I went to give him like a couple of bucks. He goes, "What? No 20?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Really, dude?" He was looking for 20. It's just funny. But, my dad brought me up helping people that were, um, not privileged, underprivileged kids. And he instilled in me why I'm probably here today. And I thank him for it all the time, for bringing me around the cookouts with the quadriplegics he did, and for the seniors and the veteran parades and everything my dad did. He was just you want to talk about a giant, Bob? My dad was a giant in the community. And he's still known all over. People know him out in California. When I say Anthony Fat Pellegrini, they're like, "That's your father?" Oh, I heard about him over the East Coast. He does all the 3,000 seniors he was feeding. And he, 2,500 underprivileged kids doing Christmas parties every year. Santa Claus landing at a Legion, post Legion. He started with 50 kids back in the early 60s, built it up to be a huge situation. And it's just, they used to bring me down at 12 years old, 11 years old, make me run barrels or set up chairs or whatever. And this is what these kids need today. They need to get a little grit in their hands and help that other person. And when I picked my first quadriplegic up from a chair at 12 years old, scared shit, I'm like, "Dad, you want me to pick this guy up?" He's like a young 20s, all quadriplegic, laughing, smiling type of guy. And he goes, "Pick him up, put him over there." Father had a bullhorn Italian. Tell you, "Get him over there, bring him over there." They would laugh, all the people, like my dad was so directive. "Put him in that chair." I'm like, "Dad, I don't want to pick this guy up. Pick him up and get him in that chair." So I said, "Okay." I'm real nervous. I never picked up anybody that was a quadriplegic. I grab him under the arms and I start picking him up out of his wheelchair. And I'm going to put him in his seat. And I got him in his seat finally. And I picked him up and I got him there. And he's looking at me. He gave me a look that day at 12 years old that I don't forget his face. That look he gave me of gratitude that I would even touch him was just unbelievable. So I go back to that for people, that we got to find the gratitude of the people that have been in our life, that are gone, that are with us, that helped us, people that have done things for us in our life, that we got to have. And once you start grabbing onto hope and gratitude, you're a little less likely to want to go kill yourself, because you got to be grateful for what you have. I ain't talking about people that got disease and all that. That's a tougher battle. But I still say you got to fight to the very end. Like if you got disease or whatever, you gotta keep fighting, because your loved ones want to see you. And they got this assisted suicide thing going on in Switzerland, and this slippery slope. And now Canada's allowing these teenagers to make decisions. If they get their heart broke within a year, they can have a doctor assisted suicide in Canada. It's just mortifying to me.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
I just don't. It's just, look. You can't go. You can't. You got to stay in a certain lane. You can't go. Okay, well, they're gonna. The quality of life. Yeah, I understand that argument, but at the same time, we're going down a slippery slope. That if the person doesn't kill themselves, maybe they get better. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe things change if they're not even diseased and their mind gets better. It's just a slippery slope. I don't agree with assisted suicide. I don't agree with it. And I have to take a stand there and not say, well, there's an exception to the rule. There's this and that. You go to the very end. You have to. And this gives me strength every day to go to the very end, even if I got cancer tomorrow. Hopefully not, but if I do, I want to bring this with me to say no right to the very last breath. And I'll be chanting Nam and get killed when I go. So I get into this next life and I come back bigger, better, and I help more people than I'm helping now. But I'm okay, I'm in a good place, and I want to continue to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm glad we hooked back up again. I know it's been some year, a few years now. We, haven't interviewed, but yeah, just to stay tuned up, and to show people that, yeah, look at my life ain't all peaches and creams every day. I struggle like everybody else. No matter how much money you got, suicide's an unbiased robber of life. And the book I just was collaborating with about feeling worthy. I wanted to just show the feeling worthy. You can go on my Venmo, Dan Pelly. You can find me on Venmo. Each author has to sell through their own connections, but it's called Feeling Worthy. I'm part of them. I'm in the book. My take on self-worth and what it takes to be bring your self-worth back into your life, and that you are a worthy human being. It's a small book. It's only 72 pages, but powerful. All these people lost their self-worth, and then they regained it. And this is where we are. So I collaborate with this. You can find Dan Pelly. You can find me everywhere. Dan Pelly. You just Google it. But if you're interested in buying the book, it's on my Venmo, and people have been purchasing it. I've been sending out. I'm in the process of writing my own book for the past year, and the title is "Suicide is an Unbiased Robber of Life" by Dan Pelly. I'm on about 8 chapters now. I'm recording. I got 2 more chapters to go. I'm hoping to publish it by 25 and get it out there, because it takes me from my childhood, things that I experienced that maybe were traumatic for me, that brought me into a state of suicide, just control, and things that were going on in the family. Everything that happens in people's life, from the childhood all the way up to my first attempt in '96 to 10 to where I am today. And just, I would think, hopefully people look at it as success, not failure. Yeah, we fail. We fail when we attempt. We fail when we give up. We fail in a lot of areas. The important thing is that we get back up again, no matter how much adversity we face. And I just read a quote by DeSacco Cater they posted on the SGI site about adversity. We all face this adversity. It's when we lose the will to carry on. When we lose that will, that's when we get in trouble. And that's when we get into suicide ideation, and we don't want to be here no more. But you got to have the will to live. And I tell people that are suffering, that might not be calling in and they're nervous, and if you're suffering right now and you're hearing this, what I did was huge for me. I call it the short list. And I still buy it with a lot of people. I go buy it, and I tell them, don't put a lot on yourself. If you can just do a short list by getting out of bed, washing your body, eating, taking a walk, maybe a little TV, and then going back to bed. I did that for months, that short list. And then I started going to the recovery program. Like, I got to get out of bed more. Went to the recovery program for 6 months, all by myself, doing my own thing. I got to get myself better, because nobody's going to do this for me. That short list, and I stuck to it, because when I started putting more on myself, I mean, my list is very long now, and I always have to check myself and slow down and say, let me shorten my list. I got a huge list now between my real estate business. I'm a broker in 4 states. I got 10 people working for me. I'm very busy on that side of life. I'm busy with my suicide prevention. But that short list still helps me today, that I shorten my list when I start feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
But that short list really did a lot for me. You got to keep it simple.
I was going to ask you. Now, people that do watch this video, they want to know a little more about you, and of course, it's going to be, on the videos, and that when they come out tomorrow afternoon, probably
On YouTube too, right? On YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube, and Rumble.
Yep.
What they want to know is, how do I get in touch with you? That's what they're going to ask.
Well,
So, go.
Well, it's up to you if you want to tell them, or I can tell them.
You tell them.
They can contact. I mean, if you just Google Dan Pelly, my email is suicide warriors. I have suicide warriors save a life at gmail.com. And you can email me there, and also message me on Facebook. You'll find me on Facebook. I got my public page, Dan Pelly. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on TikTok. And once you put in Dan Pelly, I'll come up. I'm on 18 social media sites. So if you're on Parler, Rumble, all of them that I'm on, you'll find me in Instagram and so forth, and we can connect. I do a lot of messaging with people because they don't want to talk live to you, but I've helped a lot of people just through messaging. It's like, Dan, thank you. Thanks for helping me, that type of thing. And then once there, I'll leave about people like messaging. A woman messaged me at the beginning in 17 that really propelled me to keep going. Told me her 11-year-old daughter was suicidal. And she's messaging me this. I'm like, wow, I know the kids can be problematic. And anyway, long story short, she messages me. She said she felt ashamed to bring it out to somebody that her daughter wanted to kill herself at that age. And I'm like, I got very stern where I said, no, 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 no. You need to call some adolescent programs tomorrow. They got great programs out there. You need to get your daughter, you have people talk to her, and you have to get her help because you don't want to find her, gone. And she goes, okay, I'll do my best. And we went back and forth a little bit, but I insisted that she reach out for help. Didn't hear from her for like, I don't know, it was like 6 months, maybe 8 months, maybe more. All of a sudden, I get a message on my Facebook Messenger. Dan, I just wanted to tell you, you insisting that I went for help. My daughter's no longer suicidal. She's thriving. She's happy, healthy. And I'm crying just writing this. And I just wanted to thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I started crying when I was reading it. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that's a key one for me that in 17, a year after I started, was really propelled me into, because I got all my negative people too. You get your critics, right? Well, you should have, been successful. Who makes you an inspirational speaker? Or you this, or you suck, or, you get all that negativity. And I learned from other inspirational speakers, you got to shut that out. They've learned their lesson too. You want to fight back. You want to give it back to them and be negative like them. But now I don't even respond. No more responding to negativity. I was like, well, I feel sorry for you. I'll chant for you. I hope you'll do better. That's all you can do with people. You got to stay away from the negativity. You don't even respond. So, but it's you'll find me under Dan Pelly, and you can email me, or you can find me on any social media site.
Anyway, you can also get it at I believe, at Pelly57 is on Twitter.
On Twitter too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and so many people are on Twitter. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, X now. It's called X now.
well, whatever.
I like X.
But yeah, that would be a good. But on the other hand, in that too, you got to be back sooner than that. And maybe even talk now or now talk whatever.
Yeah, when you do that, yeah, definitely, we should be doing that. Definitely.
I'm serious. I mean, people can come in on this Skype. I think I can put 20 or 30 people on the screen.
Oh, that's cool.
Coming in, it's like Zoom, only it's a little more dependable.
Yeah. Zoom can be very erratic.
Yeah, it can be a little weird. But then everybody goes on Zoom anyway. Gee whiz. And then that TikTok, you know what I mean? I get these TikToks, they'll like a show or something, and they'll send me a TikTok, and I say, get that out of here. Like your what Lurch guy. I could see him coming in the back of my mind. I was seeing this picture.
It's funny.
I walked in your room and goes, you rang.
Yep. All right.
So we're like out of here. Meanwhile, back. I want to tell everybody too, and that while you're listening, that if you want any of this information, anything, period, you want your own copy of the show. Maybe you're I don't know, maybe not too or smart enough to go look around in that for videos. Write me, Bob Charles Show at live.com. Bob Charles Show at live.com. I will send you a copy of it, or you can text me on your phone. It's 863-222-4199. I get those. It's not a call-in line. So if you try to call in, I can't answer the phone because it don't answer. The text line only to this studio. So it's 863-222-4199, and I will answer you on the Twitter. And if you have to talk to me for any reason, I'll get in touch with you by Skype, or I'll send you my email address and you can get me on the email. Good enough?
Great.
Nobody has any reason they can't get me, believe me.
I hear you.
All right, so we're like out of here. And as I always say,
great talking to you, Bob. Thank you so much.
God bless you all.
Thank you, man.
Charles.
Warriors strong.